In this video, I'm going to walk you through the first few rounds of the diamond eyelet pattern that's featured in my azalea top, as you can see right here. All of the rounds feature the same stitches, it's just the sequence of those stitches that are different. And this varying sequence is what creates the diagonal diamond shape over the 26 rounds in the stitch pattern. So let's get started with round 1. So round 1 starts with knit 6. So I will just go ahead and knit 6 stitches. Then it says to knit 2 together. So to knit 2 together, you're going to insert the right needle tip into the next 2 stitches on the left needle, just like this. Then you're going to wrap the working yarn around the right needle, just like you typically would to knit. And then you're going to pull that loop through both of the stitches. Then the next instruction is to yarn over. So we're going to bring the yarn to the front of the work between the 2 needle tips, just like that, and then back over the right needle. Then it says to knit 1, then you're going to yarn over again. So again, bring the yarn between the 2 needle tips to the front of the work, and then wrap around the right needle. Then you're going to knit 2 together again. So insert the right needle tip into the next 2 stitches and knit them together. And then it says to knit 5. Okay, then it says to repeat from start to end. So all those stitches that we just worked is considered a sequence, and they are 16 stitches. So you're going to be repeating that sequence over and over again until you get to the beginning of round marker. Now here's one tip. If you are new to lace knitting, you could always place a marker after every sequence that you do. So every 16 stitches, you would have a marker placed. Sometimes that can be helpful for newer knitters, especially if you're not comfortable with lace. This way you always know to count your stitches in between the markers, that you should have 16 stitches. And if you don't, it's more easy to identify the problems early on. So that's just a little tip that you can try if you're new to lace knitting. But I'm going to go ahead and repeat that sequence now. So let's go ahead and knit 6. Then we're going to knit 2 together. Then yarn over, then knit 1, then yarn over, then knit 2 together, and then knit 5. Okay, so our second sequence is done. So I'm just going to keep doing that over and over again until we get to the beginning of round marker. Okay, so we've just about reached the end of round 1. I'm just finishing up my last knit 5. Okay, there we go. Now we're back to the beginning of round marker. So I'm just going to slip the beginning of round marker onto the right needle. Now, the next part of the instruction says even numbered rounds 2 through 24 purl. So that just means that every other round, you're always just going to purl the entire round. So this is your break round where you don't have to pay close attention. So I'm going to bring the yarn to the front so I can be positioned to purl. And I'm just going to go ahead and purl every single stitch. And if you had taken my tip in the previous round and placed a marker for every sequence, so for every 16 stitches, then when you encountered those markers, you would just slide them right from the left needle to the right needle as you reach them. Okay, we're just about finishing up our round 2, which was the purl round. So once I get to my beginning of round marker, I'm going to slide it from the left needle to the right needle. Then I'm going to move the yarn to the back of the work again. Okay, so now we are ready to move on to round 3. So it starts with knit 5. So let's go ahead and knit 5 stitches. Then it says to knit 2 together. So we'll insert the right needle into the next 2 stitches and knit them together. Then it says to yarn over. So bring the yarn to the front of the work between the needle tips and then over the right needle. Then it says to knit 3. Then we'll yarn over again, bring the yarn to the front of the work, over the right needle, and then we will knit 2 together. And then knit 4. Now, if you had taken my tip from before and placed a marker after every sequence, the marker would be right here. So you're always working the same amount of stitches between each sequence. And again, that can be really helpful because you would know if you had made a mistake in that particular row and just be able to tink back right away. And also it just makes you feel a little bit more comfortable because you know that as long as you had those 16 stitches in between, that you won't get to the end of the round and have that circumstance where you're run out of stitches or you have too few stitches, something like that. So just like in round 1, we're going to repeat that entire sequence over and over again until we get to the end. Let's go ahead and do it one more time together. So we'll knit 5. And then we're going to knit 2 together. Then yarn over. Then knit 3. Then yarn over. Then knit 2 together. And then knit 4. Okay, so you'll just repeat that over and over again until you arrive back at the beginning of round marker. And then just like round 2, the next round, you're just going to purl every stitch. So you'll just continue in that manner through rounds 1 through 26. As I said, the stitches that I just demonstrated, those are all the stitches that you're going to need to know how to do all of these rounds. It's just the sequence of these stitches that's going to be different. The one thing I wanted to point out too is that starting with rounds 13 through 23, things change up slightly at the beginning of the round. So instead of working the first yarn over after a knit two together, it's reversed and you work the yarn over first and then the knit two together. So it's just something I want to bring to your attention, and you'll notice as you're reading through the different rounds. So we're not introducing new stitches, it's just the sequence of those stitches. So that is how you get started working the diamond eyelet pattern that is featured in my Azalea top.